You save and you work for later. When you start waking up to the fact that later is now.
You don't have to have everything done at once, but you have to do something.
But the mistake is assuming like, check the box, I'm gonna get this done in the fourth quarter, and it just doesn't work that way.
And there's a lot tied into this that you might not even be considering.
You know, you don't jump out of an airplane, supposedly. I've never done it, but it's my understanding you have a parachute and then you have a backup. Welcome to the Total Succession Show. I'm your host, Tyson Ray, joined by Kim Cochenour. We're glad you're here. Subscribe at totalsuccession.com/podcast and let each episode guide you closer to a confident, well-planned exit. Today's conversation just might be the nudge you need to start preparing for what's next.
Okay, everybody, let's be honest. Some of you are behind. You've been meaning to build a plan for years, but things got busy. Maybe you weren't sure where to start, or you didn't even think you needed to yet. And now it actually feels a little too late. If this is hitting close to home, take a deep breath. You're not too late, and you're not the only one. But let's move forward. And if we're going to do that, you have to start with honesty. So let's look at why this happens first, because if you can name this pattern in the first step, this will actually help you to breaking that cycle. So let's kind of start here. Because behind almost every delayed succession plan, there is a story. Tyson, you've walked through a lot of these stories with other advisors. What are some of the reasons founders of their business put this off, even when they know it matters?
Because they let the urgent crowd out the important. They let the day-to-day flow of the business, clients' needs, just the grind of the job prevent them from having the space to think and plan and prepare and act and just all that goes into the succession planning. And the longer you wait, the less time you have, which shrinks down your options and adds some pressure. Still can be done. But I think that's the primary reason is they just get the days go by one after another. They have the best of intentions, but the urgency of caring for the clients, because that's what we do, prevents the planning of the succession of the practice.
Yeah. And like you said, it does come from a place of good intentions. They need a good, successful business to run, to keep people employed and take care of their clients and do all those things. But nothing is actually moving the needle. And usually something actually has to happen to kind of shake them awake. So Tyson, it's helpful to hear because, again, you've walked through this a couple of times. What have you seen to be a reason that really actually flips the switch for advisors?
Well, it's kind of like clients. It is either an age, it is an income level, it is a health event, or it's a family event that just brings perspective back to your mortality. It brings perspective back to what time you have left to go enjoy the fruits of your labor. It's like, I tell clients all the time, you save and you work for later. And when you start waking up to the fact that later is now, I haven't met a client, I haven't been to a funeral of a client that was like, I'm so glad I worked another 10 years, right? And yet, if you don't see it coming, and that's part of why we start with C in the space framework. If you don't see this coming, you reduce your opportunity to plan for it, to basically act on it, to commit to it, and actually have the exit on your terms. And I think the financial services practice is much like the United States, which is, I believe the statistic is close to 80% of people don't retire on their terms.
That's huge.
And
That's
there's a trigger.
number.
Well. And we know somebody who had a triggering event and all of a sudden held first grandson. He's like, this is it. This is all I want to do. And then he raced through a succession, is going to end up losing key people that helped him get there. Doesn't want it, but that's basically what's starting to happen. And it's just like, okay, well, did you map out when your kids got married, you ask them, when do you think they're going to have kids? Like you can see this coming. If you step back and look at your life, it's like, how did I not see that happening? Right. And for me, I turned 50. My grandma was 103. So it's like, I'm not even halfway there yet. But man, that went fast. 7 years in the business, 25 years being married to my wife. And it's just like, wow, flew by. It's like, okay, well then 5 years is going to fly by. And then 10 years is going to fly by. You're 60, another 5 to 10. It's like, wait a minute, I need to start thinking about internal, external, what do I see?
Yeah.
The urgent crowds out the important, and you don't see you have a triggering event coming in your life or your health that's going to force this upon you, or hopefully you're one that can plan it and it's on your terms.
Yeah. So for you listening, if you're saying, wow, that's actually me, this is where you need to stop. You need to stop carrying the guilt and actually pick up and actually get some momentum in this process. So we're going to get practical because clarity is going to beat the shame every time and getting you where you need to go. So Tyson, let's walk through some just practical steps. What are some of the first 2 to 3 steps someone should take if they know they're behind? Talk to someone who's like 60 and they've not done anything yet.
I'm a big believer that if you haven't done it yet, you're probably not meant to do it, which means we needed to delegate it. We need to
Mm,
either hire a consultant that's out there. We need to go to our G2 if it's internal, or our chief operating officer if we have a structure like that, or start talking to these aggregators or integrators. Like we need help for someone to kind of move this ball forward, because if you would have, I think especially by 60, if you were going to have a plan in place and you don't by the time you're 60, you're probably not going to have one in place by the time you're 65, because if you were going to do it, you would have done it already.
yep. Yeah. So we have a lot of shared resources that we can link to on the Total Succession website where people can find information, or if they're like, who can I talk to from a consultant or an aggregator or an integrator standpoint? We'll make sure that you've got tangible tools to help you take some of these steps if you're in that camp of you're behind. So, Tyson, even someone who's in their 50s, or they're a solo practitioner or a solo advisor, what steps should they be taking because if they don't have anything in place, even in their 40s and 50s, they're still behind because they need something in place. So, where would you direct them?
Yeah, the solar practitioners are interesting ones because even in your 50s, it's like I've gone through several team members to get to the team that I have now. If it's I'm going to hire the rainmaker. I'm going to hire my internal succession person. Well, okay, you hire the first one. It takes 2 or 3 years to figure out if they're working, and then that doesn't work. So you got to hire another one. It's like you're burning the clock.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes along the way that, okay, I can think of a wonderful man, and for his entire career, enormously successful, 2 assistants, him and 2 assistants. Does it? When he was thinking about his own succession, it's just like, I've done this for decades with 2 assistants. They're all kind of at the same age. So it's like, okay, we're all kind of retiring at the same time. And so for the solo practitioner, you got to basically be like, do you have the bandwidth, the ability, the will, and want to take the risk to try and build out your own internal succession plan? Or do you
Mm-hmm.
need to go join another team that already
Mm-hmm.
has it all built out and you get to plug in and then unplug whenever you want? But you need to wake up to the reality that who are you and what are your capabilities? What's your risk tolerance? What's your time frame? And what do you need to do about it? Because the longer you wait, the less options you have. It's just that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. So it helps to kind of narrow that down between the two different age gaps essentially. But I think it's important we identify some landmines. I think sometimes when you're kind of stepping into this concept of like, oh my gosh, I need to really get moving. Um, I think sometimes we can focus on the wrong things. What should advisors they might be drawn to do something right now, even though it feels urgent, but it's not the first priority. Like, where do you think they should focus their time and energy and skip over? Like, what do they need to skip in this process?
Well, I'll say it a different way. I think what they skip in the process, they shouldn't skip. They get right to the preparing and acting and getting into trying to do different things, but they never clarified why. They never clarified
Mm,
what are they going to do. They never clarified what do they see themselves doing. What's best for the firm? What's best for their family? What's best for their health and their well-being? What do they want to do with these gifts and talents when they're no longer working? Other landmines are I think you need to have kind of, you don't jump out of an airplane, supposedly. I've never done it, but it's my understanding you have a parachute and then you have a backup, right?
mhm,
And I really think that I've looked at this and gone back and forth. I've looked at external options. I've played with internal options. I went back and looked at external options. And I think what I've come up with is that I think that the natural tendency of an advisor is to try to have an internal succession, only to realize in the end that's not going to work, which then leads them to an external option. Rather than being surprised about it, it might be a good plan to have a plan for I'm going to do this internally. And what does that look like? Or rule that out. I'm not going to build the team. I'm not going to take the risk. I'm not going to hire the people. I don't want the headache. I've tried. It didn't work. I suck at managing people. I don't want I financially have to take the hit if I hire somebody for 100 or 200 grand. So if you rule out, that's fine. And then for me, it's like, no, we're going to explore internal succession and what that could look like, knowing that right behind that is external options if that falls apart, because landmines are in an internal succession. The person that you think wants it doesn't want it in the end. And when I mean in the end, like on the day they go sign the contract, are they going to sign it? Because if they don't, if they chicken out, if they're afraid, if the debt's too high, if the bank wants too many covenants, personal guarantees, whatever, that's a risk. Landmines are the financing, the options internally and externally, what money you take, especially what the earnouts are, who really owns the practice and when does the control change? Unfortunately, most of the landmines you don't find until you've stepped on them. And so looking for them ahead of time, troubleshooting what can go wrong and what would you do about it, can allow you to, again, as we said in a different podcast, like you're going to try some things and then you're going to find out that doesn't work, or that option's not good now for this reason. I'm going to try this option. Well, this option's not good for this reason. And just got to keep going through and looking for where those landmines are or where this is going to derail, because the succession's going to happen. You're either going to die and it happens, or it's going to be taken from you because you're disabled, or you just threw up your hands and said, "Hell with it, I'm selling it," or you're going to have a planned out succession. But it's going to happen. And it's worthy to try and find out what's the best way for it to happen.
Yeah. Well, and it's really important to keep moving forward. And it's important for you to kind of start some of those planning pieces, because rushing this process, rushing to just have a plan in place to check the box to say, yep, got my succession plan in place, can actually do a lot of damage that you might not even consider on the other end, because you didn't seek counsel to plan that out. You didn't see what your future would really look like to plan for what that would be. And you might end up on the other side of whatever succession plan you do enact, not actually getting the outcome that you're looking for. And I think sometimes what might keep you from actually dealing with this is the guilt. You have been responsible for people's life savings, and you might be paralyzed by regret of how you could handle this or not handle this correctly. And there's a lot tied into this that you might not even be considering.
Yeah, I mean, I started my career saying the reason you should work with me is I'm not going to retire in your retirement. And that was true when I was in my 20s. And these people have entrusted you with their wealth. And as you age with them, they will be asking themselves at some point, what happens if you're not there? And do you have an answer?
And do you have a person?
Correct. And then the guilt comes is you don't. Right? The guilt comes is like, no, it's just me. Well, okay. Now, what's the plan then? All right. If it's just you, all right, that's a factor. Now, what do we do with that? What are my options? Well, you can either join another team and participate in that type of decision. You can be acquired. You can find a partner. You can try and build your team. It's just like you have options. I've come up with the biggest landmine is time. That's the biggest landmine. And what do I mean by that? You want succession to be check the box. It's done. I did it in an hour. It's like a financial plan for a client. Like a little bit of time. Here's what I'm going to do. Done. And it's just like, doesn't work that way. Right?
Yeah.
2024, we spent half the year as a project exploring integrators and aggregators, and do we want to be acquired by any one of them? And what does that look like? And what are the contracts? And what are the options? And we ruled it out. We learned a ton. And then in 2025, we decided, hey, we're going to restructure the firm. redo some of our legal agreements, and line ourselves up for a better solution that benefits the employees, retains people, allows people to participate in some type of exit down the road if I leave as one of the founders or the other partner leaves. Like, we figured out some of that stuff, so much so we've written the book, right? We've started a podcast about it. 2026, the goal is, hey, wait a second, let's rule out internal succession ESOP options. And we're going to just basically spend the year picking it up, putting it down, picking it up. And it's an hour here, an hour there throughout every month to come up with ruling out options. But the landmine of you thinking like you're going to sit down and figure this out in a week, a month, it doesn't happen. And so therefore you kick the can, not realizing like this is an elephant. You cut a little piece and you chew and you chew and you chew, and then you have another piece. And eventually you're going to get through it.
Yeah.
But the mistake is assuming like, check the box, I'm going to get this done in the fourth quarter. And it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And I think something that we said earlier is if you, regardless of your age, I would think if you have not taken a step in any direction to start this process on your own, get some help. There is nothing wrong with getting help. Your clients come to you because they need help with their finances. You go to a consultant because you need help with your business. You go see specialists to help you with the things in your life that you need help with. And truthfully, the accountability from looping in someone else, especially when you're going to pay them a hefty sum to help you, will really help hold you to the plan that needs to get done for your future of your business. So you need to let go of what you should have done and stop shoulding all over yourself and the lack of planning you've done for your succession planning, and move forward and focus on what you still can do. And you can rewrite this. You can work forward from this. But you have to take full ownership of what comes next. So what we want to take you down this path on as we wrap up for today, you need to understand you don't have to have everything done at once. It won't be all done at once, but you have to do something. So you need to move the needle every week. You need to have the call. You need to find a consultant. You need to do a brain dump. You need to start talking to your G2, your spouse, someone, just saying out loud, okay, it's time to start. Because once you actually start moving, the momentum will be helpful. It'll take off some of that guilt, weight, and pressure. And the momentum for you will be building in a way that will get you to the end line that you need and your clients need and your family needs for you to have a successful plan. Tyson, any final thoughts for our listeners today?
Yeah, I think the other landmine just might be you thinking you have to do it yourself and you don't.
Yeah. There's people to help, and we're here to help too. That's why this book was written. That's why the space framework exists. Again, we've got some tools to kind of help you start navigating that path to help give you some traction and get you going in the right direction. So we'll be back soon with more conversations like this.
These conversations are designed to support your next move, however close or far it may be. Tap subscribe and let each episode guide you closer to a confident, well-planned exit. I've wrestled with these things myself, and that's exactly why I created something to help you do it with less stress and more direction. My book, Total Succession, is now available on Amazon. Inside, I break the process down into 5 clear steps to help you exit on your terms with confidence, full compensation, and your client's best interests at heart. You can also visit totalsuccession.com/podcast to download a free starter guide that walks you through my SPACE framework: see, prepare, act, commit, exit. Remember, you only exit your business once. Create the space to do it well. Thanks for listening. Until next time.